What's up guys, this is Mike, the Detroit Borg, with a look at the third generation Moto G for 2015, which is still a budget-friendly phone, starting at $179. So this is the same price point as the previous generation, but now we get LTE, a larger battery, much improved specs, a better camera, and many more design and customization options. It's also IPX7 certified, which means it's water resistant up to 1 meter and 30 minutes. There are two versions of the Moto G, one with 8 gigs of storage and 1 gig of RAM, the other with 16 gigs of storage and 2 gigs of RAM, and that is only $40 more, so if you want to splurge on your Moto G, that's the one to get. Now in terms of our specs, of course, they're fairly modest here, with a Snapdragon 410 quad-core clocked at 1.4 GHz with an Adreno 306 GPU. In terms of the unboxing experience, it's very simple. The first thing you see is the phone facing backwards to highlight the custom color configuration. In this case, I went with a red back panel and dark chrome accents. I also went with the white front panel, but of course you could choose black instead. There's a lot of back panels you can pick from, and since they're removable, you can change them out later if you want. There's also a variety of accent colors, and the accent color is basically the strip on the back of the phone surrounding the camera and flash. In terms of accessories, very minimal here. We get a power adapter for charging the internal battery of the Moto G. We do get a quick start guide which explores how you can remove the back panel to add your SIM and SD card. In terms of the design, the first thing that really stands out here is the grippable texture on the back panel. Feels really nice in the hand, feels a little more durable, and certainly a lot more comfortable to handle. Along the side, we have what looks like metal. It's actually a plastic frame, but it feels really rigid, and it looks pretty nice. Of course, with a white front bezel, you do get a lighter colored frame. If you went with a black one, you would see a darker one. The design itself is very typical for Motorola. It has this curved shape, so it feels really nice in the hand. Toward the top, you have this bump out for the headphone jack, as well as the microphone. Toward the bottom, it's a little slimmer with a USB 2.0 port for charging or syncing. On the right side, you'll find your buttons, including a power button, which is textured, so it's a little more tactile. We also have our volume rocker. On the back of the phone, you'll find your 13 megapixel camera with an f2.0 aperture and a dual tone LED flash. Of course, you have this little Motorola dimple toward the bottom, which is a little lower than before. On the front, we'll find a 5-inch 720p display, good for 294 pixels per inch. It's the same specs as the previous generation, but it's a much brighter, more colorful display. We have this white bezel surrounding the display in this case, and at the top you have your earpiece. Of course, next to that is your ambient light sensor and proximity sensor and your 5 megapixel front-facing camera. Toward the bottom you have your loudspeaker, and of course all these speakers are water resistant, and unlike the Moto E, these front-facing speakers are not stereo. The top piece is only for your earpiece, the bottom is for the loudspeaker. To pop off the back panel, you do get this little thumbnail port toward the bottom. It's pretty easy to take off, and you have to remember that this back panel is water resistant. So if you look at the inside, you'll see we have these little gaskets surrounding the slots for the micro SIM, the micro SD card slot, and other ports that cannot be exposed to water. Along the left side, we'll find a micro SD card slot good for 32 gigs and our micro SIM slot, so no nano SIM in this case. On the right side, you have what would be the dual SIM slot, which is not currently available. Now everything else back here is sealed up and watertight, including the 2470 milliamp hour battery. There is no NFC or wireless charging in this case. Quickly comparing the second gen to the third gen, the new phone is actually a bit larger in terms of its overall body size. It's also a bit heavier with that larger battery. The design overall is actually very similar. We have that nice curved palmable design, but we have much different textures here. We have this nice grippable texture on the back of the third gen as opposed to the smoother, glossier finish on the second gen. Along the side, along the right side, you can see the buttons are in the same place, but the controls are a bit larger on the third gen. And we have this texture on the power button, which the Moto G second gen did not have. Toward the top, the headphone jack and the microphone are in roughly the same location. Same with the bottom here, the micro USB port. Along the back, we go from an 8 megapixel 720p camera to a 13 megapixel 1080p camera. We also go from a single LED flash to a dual tone LED flash. At the top, we've traded a 2 megapixel camera for a 5 megapixel front-facing camera. They've also relocated the ambient light sensor and proximity sensor from the previous generation. They've also eliminated the LED notification light and traded it for Moto Display, which flashes your notifications on the lock screen. The speaker layout is very similar. We have a loudspeaker at the bottom and the earpiece toward the top, but you can see that the third gen has a recessed speaker design as opposed to the speakers on the second gen, which have these trim pieces that bump out. Taking a look through the interface, we do have our on-screen Moto Display notifications. So if you have notifications, they will wake up on your lock screen when you move the phone or take it out of your pocket. So you can swipe to activate whatever you want to look at or swipe down just to unlock the phone to the home screen. So if we look at our standard lock screen, you can see that we have our notifications. This is pretty much stock Android 5.1 in this case. So of course you can quickly launch into your phone dialer by swiping up on the icon here, or swipe to launch into the camera. In terms of the main home screen here, we have our drop-down notification shade with our quick setting toggles up here, including our screen brightness. You can also jump to our personal settings up here if you want. On the main home screen, you can swipe between your available pages or swipe all the way to the right to get to Google Now, so you can see all your Google Now cards. You can also say, "Okay Google, what's the weather like tomorrow in Rochester Hills?"
Tomorrow's forecast for Rochester Hills is 78 degrees and mostly sunny.
Now if you want to increase the volume here, you get to your controls up here, but you also have your Do Not Disturb functions. Again, this is pretty much stock Android, so you can mute all your notifications, select priority mode, or none at all. We also have our on-screen Android navigation keys, so you can swipe up to quickly launch into Google Now. We also have our overview feature that allows us to see all of our recently opened apps, so you can swipe to dismiss them, to close them out, or bring them forward. Now it's pretty simple here. You don't have a clear all function like a lot of skins will usually add, but you do have search right up here. You can also tap and hold on the home screen to get to your editor, so you can change the wallpaper, jump to your settings, or add widgets. So that's the way you access your widget panel. And of course you can go to your app drawer to drag and drop apps you want to the home screen. You can also edit your home screen just by tapping and holding on it, and this gets you to your editor, which includes wallpapers, widgets, and settings. So if you want to select a different wallpaper, you can. If you want to select your widgets, it's right here. So all you have to do is drag and drop what you want to your home screen. So let's go ahead and remove that, and there we go. So in terms of the app drawer, the app selection is mostly stock Google, but we have a few Motorola apps. One of them is an FM radio tuner, so all you have to do is connect a set of headphones that act as your antenna, and you can dial into your terrestrial radio. It's actually a really nice app. You can record it, you can enable the speaker so you can listen to it out loud instead of over your headphones, and of course you can set your favorite stations. We also get a standalone messaging app if you don't want to use Hangouts. We have Migrate, so this allows you to migrate from one phone to another or from this phone to another. All you have to do is select your type of phone here, so whether you have an Android, iPhone, or other type of phone. We also have extensive help documentation, so if you have any questions, just go to this document and it should help you out. Under Moto, we'll find some familiar Motorola features like Motorola Assist. Basically, these are automated actions which you can modify. They keep updating this with every iteration. So you can see we can add new activities, which includes sleeping and meeting. So if you want to add sleeping mode, basically you can specify certain times of day in which this activates, so it mutes your notifications, but you can modify this to more granular levels. If you want to allow vibration or silence all notifications or turn that off, you can. You can also keep your screen quiet, or you can delete this entire activity. You can also add your current location, so it triggers some of these activities, or you can go ahead and add meeting mode. So under meeting mode, you can go ahead and keep quiet if it determines a meeting is on your calendar, and will keep your phone silenced during that meeting. You can also enable automatic replies here, which you can set up manually. We also get Motorola Actions, and we have two of them here. We have Chop Twice for flashlight. You can turn this off if you don't want, but basically all you have to do is shake your phone to activate the LED flashlight, and it works really reliably. You can also turn it off this way. We also have Twist for quick capture. So again, all you have to do is twist your wrist to quickly activate the camera from a lock state, and all you have to do is tap the screen to take a photograph. We also have display. So Moto Display finally makes it to the Moto G. Basically, you receive your notifications on your lock screen. So again, there's no need for an LED notification light, but you can modify this here. So you can wake the screen when notifications arrive using Moto Display, so that's Motorola's implementation, or you can use Ambient Display, which is Android, which will actually show you your current list of notifications along with previews, which I actually personally prefer. Of course, you can turn this off entirely if you don't want it. Checking out the camera app, it is pretty familiar for Motorola. So we can tap the screen to take a photograph, swipe up to zoom in and out. If you want to enable tap to focus, you'll have to enable it from the settings panel, which you can swipe in from the left edge here. So you can go ahead and enable it, and we do have a new feature with this. So basically we can manually adjust the exposure using this little circle. And again, you can tap anywhere on the screen to take the photograph, or if you want to focus on a specific target, you select it and then tap it. Now to take a burst photograph, just tap and hold on the screen and it snaps a few photographs. Of course, you can also flip to your front-facing camera, and we'll demonstrate the quality a bit later here. We also have our 1080p video camera, so you can pause it, stop it, or you can take photographs just by tapping on the screen while recording video. We do have continuous autofocusing here, but no optical image stabilization or software stabilization, but you can swipe up and down here to zoom in and out. Now, I'm really impressed by this camera. This is easily the best looking camera I've seen on any sort of budget phone. Images come out crisp, clear, with good color accuracy, good exposure as well. Autofocusing works smoothly, quickly, and accurately. A lot of times these cheaper phones have a really hard time finding correct focus. Even in low light conditions, this camera produces above standard results for budget phones. So you're able to see good exposure without a lot of grain, but of course it's not as sharp as brightly lit scenes and does have a tendency to overexpose in some situations. The dual-tone LED flash does produce a much more natural light, so if you need to use it, it actually works pretty well. Video also looks sharp and crisp, again with good exposure and color accuracy, and the AF mechanism here is quick and accurate without hunting around. Unfortunately, without any optical or software stabilization, handheld video does look pretty shaky. What's going on, guys? Mike here, the Detroit Borg, testing out the new front-facing camera, 5 megapixels, good for 1080p video, delivers pretty good results. Good and clear, but I think the biggest issue I have is it tends to underexpose, but you can manually adjust the exposure just like you can on the rear-facing camera. Overall results are really good for a 179 phone. Speaker quality is pretty much identical to the phone from last year, so we don't have stereo speakers, but we have a loud front-facing mono speaker, which is pretty clear, so let's go and take a listen. What's up, guys? This is Mike, the Detroit Borg, taking a look at the NVIDIA Shield TV, which is one of the first set-top boxes to output 4K video. In terms of benchmarks, this is actually the first time the Moto G has seen any spec upgrade internally. Last year really was just a size increase. So with Geekbench, we have a score of 519 versus 334 and 1570 versus 1019. That's a pretty significant improvement, but of course doesn't make this a hot rod phone by any means. So the biggest change here is the new Snapdragon 410, which is clocked at 1.4 gigahertz versus 1.2 gigahertz on the previous generation. In terms of real-world performance, it's fairly smooth and quick, but there is some noticeable frame dropping and lag here and there, but it's not crippling or a huge nuisance by any means. I think that's to be expected out of a phone that's running fairly low end specs at this price point. That's one of the benefits of using near stock Android is the efficiency and quickness of the stock OS without adding a lot of layers to it to bog it down. So pretty impressed overall, but it could be better, and that's to be expected at this price point. In terms of battery life, the 3rd gen Moto G does pick up a much larger battery. We're now at 2,470 milliamp hours versus 2,070 milliamp hours. That's a 400 milliamp hour increase. Pretty significant. That's important because of LTE. LTE takes a lot more power, and the previous generation didn't have it. After about 24 hours of use, I'm getting about 4 hours of on-screen time or better. That's with regular usage such as watching YouTube videos, taking photographs, taking video, uploading those videos. So that's pretty impressive performance overall. So once again, the Moto G is a real standout in terms of budget smartphones this year. This is by far my favorite option available right now in this price point, and at $179, it's an undeniable bargain with a large 5-inch display which is bright and vivid, a front-facing speaker which I think is very welcome. We also get waterproofing, which is unusual. It's also unobtrusive, so it's nice to have waterproofing without the annoyance of flaps. So that means the speakers, the USB port, and the headphone jack are water resistant, but you want to make sure the back panel is completely sealed up. So make sure that it's pushed around all the edges and you've pushed around the center of the panel to make sure it's all sealed up before you submerge it in water. Of course, you don't want to take the swimming. That's not really what it's intended for. It's really meant for accidental water submersion. Now, if you remove the back panel after it's been submerged in water, you'll find a lot of water back there. Now, that's fine because all the vitals have been sealed up, but you may want to pop this off and dry it off if you drop it in water. We also get the benefit of smooth performance thanks to stock Android and Motorola's commitment to keeping it updated with the latest version of Android. We also get excellent battery life with LTE, so there is no compromise there. And in terms of build quality, it's excellent. Feels solid and rigid, and it's made of nice textures and materials, and it's highly customizable, so you can personalize it to whatever you want. Alrighty guys, I hope you enjoyed this review of the 3rd generation Moto G. If you did, please give it a thumbs up to let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.